Hey, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Three Stacks in this thing, and I got a treat for you, man. I got a project I've been working on secretly. Nobody knows that I've been secretly trying to make an impactful Crystron build. So it's still under work. I have some cards that I still need to procure. I still need one more scrap recycler. Mathman's off the list, so I need 3 Mathmans, and I need Gen X Undyings. Just quite a few cards that I'm missing, but it's nearly complete, and I really wanted to showcase you guys the progress because I have cards. I'm just missing, certain amounts of them, but it's basically done. And this is going second Crystron's. The idea I had, I wanted to utilize its ability to generate so much advantage off of just one card, which can be any Crystron monster really that's not a tuner, and kind of use that to change the trajectory of the playstyle of this deck to make it more consistent with not breaking boards and not making boards, but with grinding and draining your opponent's resources to very minimal and using its floating abilities and its already natural latent grind game synergy to kind of slowly but surely take control of the duel. Think of it how Sky Strikers try to play, but in a lot more consistent way without the the weaknesses that Sky Strikers have. So I'm gonna hop into the main deck and kind of explain. I think there's like 2 cards in the extra deck that I need to pick up. One of them being the White Aura Well, but pretty much everything is done. So starting off with monsters, I do play 3 Sulfonirs. Now, while it is a hard once per turn, I find this card to be extremely important. It's one of the best play starters of this deck. This deck is very peculiar in its playstyle, and it's really difficult. I'm not gonna lie. For the first, I think, 8 months of playing this deck, it was giving me headaches, and it was making me very upset, and I just wanted to not play it. But I admire a challenge, and I like the fact that this deck challenged me to actually, learn how to play it and, dedicate the time. And through the course of playing this deck, I realized how good this card is. Just opening up with it, having the extra copies, even though you can use the same copy, like just recycling it from the graveyard, like this card is so good. You really need to see it. There's so many combos that you can do, and it makes them so much better just by having it in your hand, so you don't have to waste the resource in trying to dump it to the grave or fetch it off this turn. That way, everything can be used for other cards when you already have it in your hand. So it's really important to open up with this card. Then I played 3 Thysferns. So Thysfern is pretty much every Crystron, if you guys did not know, has an ability where you can target one face-up card you control, even themselves. And that's the cost. You just target for cost. You can for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck except machines. You destroy that card and special Crystron tuner from your deck. Now this deck came out around the same time as Zodiac's, and this is a 1-card combo deck, just like Zodiac's. 1-card synchros that float, generate more advantage, and set you up very, very well for the future, for your next turns. It's a really, really good deck. So every Crystron has the ability where they can pop a face up, including themselves, and summon a tuner from the deck. The only thing that differentiates from their effects is the grave effects. So you can banish them from the grave to do A, B, or C. This one banishes itself to add a Crystron monster, which if you don't already have Sulfonir, you're going to be searching Sulfonir. And Sulfonir, you could just pitch a Crystron card, special it. If it's special that way, you can destroy a card you control. And it's any card, which is really cool. Like, there's the ways you can clear your extra monster zone, unclog it. Even when your opponent gives you, just something strange that you need to get rid of, you can destroy it yourself. In addition to that, if this monster is destroyed by card effects, you can just special summon a Crystron from your deck. And that effect is really good. It's like, it floats. I like it. And then we have 3 copies of Smyger. Smyger is really potent in this deck. It searches out your trap, and there's only 1 trap I'm playing for this build. It's the best one. The trap is really one of the ways that you can grind. It's such a good card, and he's 18 booty. Then I played 2 Turtles. I love Turtles so much because Turtles are kind of like my favorite pets. I see him, I think about my homeboy Esteban, which is my baby turtle right across from me. This guy is awesome. He specials Crystron's from the hand. You can't really call him a combo extender. He's a play starter, believe it or not. They're all really play starters. Your extender can be like a Soul Charge or, even a Monster Reborn. It can, if you play 1-for-1, it could be 1-for-1. It could be a Foolish. I think some people misinterpret the term extender and kind of just overuse it and misuse it. And then now, like, when you hear deck profiles, like, everything's an extender, but they don't really understand. They're just repeating words that they heard, you know what I'm saying? And then one Rosenix. Rosenix is awesome. At times, you can treat it as an extender because the level 1 token that it gives you, it can kind of prolong your combo to be a bit more potent than it naturally would have been. And also the extra fodder for a pop ability, even if you're trying to link summon, or if you're trying to modulate your levels for a particular synchro summon, the level 1 token really helps. And it's an 18 body, which is important. And it's level 4, so it's really nice. Think of them all as Zodiac Barrages. They special one from deck, basically. And the cards that they are going to tutor from your deck are the tuners, which are going to be Crystron Citri and Crystron Rion. Now, at the moment, I'm playing 2 Citris. I naturally played 3 of this. I had to bump Rion because there were like literally so many combos where I would actually special summon 2, and then I would still need 1 in my main deck to kind of use its ability to recycle itself. And that's why I'm playing 3 of it now. You can also recycle this off of your Crystron Impact, which is really cool. So the Crystron Tuners, they're 1-card combos as well. What they do is during your opponent's main phase or battle phase, they target a monster from wherever it's targeting and designating it. They special summon it, and they immediately perform a synchro summon for a machine type synchro monster. Whenever, even in the battle phase, you can go, you know, whatever you want to do. You could Black Rose your opponent during their turn by summoning Carrion Quandax, the level 4 synchro right here, and then using his effect to synchro summon during their main phase, and just like, you know, Black Rose them, because this does not specify machine. So like there's cool things that you can do with them. It's in its core, it's like, it reminds me of Yang Zines, which is just synchro summoning during your opponent's turn, adding more layers of disruption, making it kind of hard to interpret when and where you're going to make your next strike, which makes this deck very hard to read. And I like that because it has that that aura that kind of throws even smart and good skilled players off. Because it's a random deck, like who plays Crystron, you know. And then also, in addition to that, not only who plays Crystron, but how many people that are playing Yu-Gi-Oh! In this meta right now really know how this deck works, how it functions, and what to stop. You know what I'm saying? And Rion, whenever he does his effect, he specials from the Banish Zone. And he's really important because he's not only does he special from the Banish Zone, but he also lets you put the synchro materials back into your deck, so they get shuffled back into the deck. So he recycles your cards. And then Citri specials from the graveyard, and then you have to banish the materials after they get used for the synchro. And then I play some really good play starters. So this should be 3 Scrap Recyclers, this should be 3 Mathematicians, and 3 Gen X Undyne. Those 9 cards. So as you can see, I have 6 more that I need to get. But all these are going to do is dump your Crystron so they can get their graveyard effects. And these are great play starters because they give you that extra body on field, that extra level for your higher synchros. Like this, plus a Crystron card, you can set up for Quandax on your opponent's turn. Carrion Quandax, you can do Quandax and Black Rose. You can Trishula your opponent, or you could just do this. I like to do this sometimes better than Trishula, because it banishes up to, basically it's going to banish 3, but it banishes monsters on the field or the graveyard up to the number of synchro materials that were tuners. I believe that were tuners, or is it just, no, it's just synchro materials, period. So like you can use this, summon this on your opponent's turn in the middle of their combo, banish 3 of their monsters, and just be like, all right, continue doing what you're doing. I'm sorry, go ahead. So these are really, really good. And now, basically, the rest of the deck is dedicated and focused to going second because I don't want to go first. I'm choosing to go second on purpose, taking advantage of the consistency and sheer potency of the 1-card combo that this deck has, which I like a lot. It's like a bunch of Alistairs or a bunch of Zodiacs. Think of it that way. Even Sky Strikers, yeah, their 1-card combo is cool, but this deck's 1-card combo has a snowball effect. You can open with 1 Thisfern, and if you don't draw anything good for the rest of the duel, this 1 card will literally get you there. Like, after 5 turns, you'll realize all these things that you've done, all these cards that you've specialed, all these monsters that you searched, all these just incredible, incredible combos that you produced, and it was like, dang, the only good card I had in my hand was a Thisfern, and look how far I got. So, like, it's a 1-card combo that has an extensive, you can say, investment in your future plays. And then for hand traps, we play 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, 3 Ghost Lovers, kind of like the hand traps that are good against almost any deck. I think Ash can hit pretty much anything. We do play 3 Joe and Lockbirds because I don't really like Gokis, how they search so much. Every time they link summon, and then I don't like that Sky Strikers just literally search all day 24/7, and even Spirals sometimes have to pass a turn for this. I do also main deck 3 Effect Veilers because even against the Goki combo, when they set up their chain links and try to mask their Isolde or whatever, you can Veiler whenever you want, and it doesn't matter if you're Veilering the monster that's Chainlink 1 or if you're Veilering the monster that's Chainlink 3. You can Veiler whichever one you want, and he's not once per turn. And just so happens that Joel's not once per turn either. So even if your opponent, like, for example, like, I don't know, like, let's just say they negated it with the card that was not called by the grave, obviously, then you could just draw again. So just keep in mind that these hand traps are not once per turn. I was considering playing the Ghost Bell Girl, the one that hits grave effects. I might play 2 of her just to up my hand trap count. Also was considering Gammas, but Gamma is only impactful against my opponent, but I wanted to play Gamma to be able to use it on my turn, and since it didn't work out that way, I just took it out. So it would have been 15 hand traps. It still might be 14, but the 12 hand traps because we want to go second. We want to just cut our opponent's place like to the bare minimum, and then kind of just pick them apart from there. The only spells that I'm playing in the deck are actually 3 Sekka's Light. Now, the reason why I chose this, I have a very good theory on this. I'm not necessarily the best deck builder in the world, but I kind of have like a little bit of experience building decks. So like I have these weird ideas. Every time I build a deck, I just have like something that I want to make the deck stand out. Every deck that you've seen on my channel, you kind of notice that like there's always that one thing that's kind of just obscure, and you look at it like, why is this guy playing this card? This is kind of one of those cards that I saw has a lot of potential in this particular playstyle because think of it, I want to go second. I'm using a lot of my own resources to make sure that I can minimize the things that my opponent can do. In fact, I want to really just restrict and hinder every single thing that he can do and put him in that conundrum or that circumstance where he's subject to my will in a sense. And Sekka's Light helps me out a lot because if I'm discarding from my hand using hand traps and other cards like that that are cutting my opponent's play short, I kind of need to rejuvenate, if it makes sense, or replenish all those expended excess resources that could have been combo pieces. And that's why I feel like this card is like just sheer like dominance. I like it a lot. Just the Pot of Greed, literally. And then after that, you just every time you draw, you use it again. And then its ability to banish itself actually does help. You can banish it from the grave, reveal a monster in your hand, shuffle in the deck, and draw. That helps a lot when you have one too many hand traps, or if you drew one of your Crystron tuners, which is an issue. If you're a Crystron player, I know that you understand where I'm coming from. And that's another thing that I felt that this card had good synergy with. I really hate to draw the Crystron tuners, but I have to play the ratio of Rions that I'm playing for a very, very, very good reason. So whenever I draw one, it belongs in the deck. That's where it's going to be summoned from, the deck. So I can use Sekka's Light to put it back into the deck where it belongs, and then Special If in the deck. So there's so many good reasons for playing this, and obviously that's the only spell I play. And then I do play 3 Evenly Matched and 3 Impermanents. As if the 12 hand traps wasn't enough, I would be playing Dark Hole and Raigeki and Twin Twisters. But I also felt like that was a little bit overkill. In addition to that, I still wanted to play the Sekka's Light. I was going to play the Pot of Desires, but I felt like Sekka's Light was much less of a risk and a higher reward than Pot of Desires itself was. So Sekka's Light was a good choice. So in addition to, the 12 hand traps, you have these. So basically, half of my deck is catered to going second, and I like it that way. The other half of my deck is basically all 1-card combos. So even if I'm forced to go first, I have like well over a 50% chance of drawing at least one of the 1-card combos. Because you also have to keep in mind, when you play a card at 3 in a 40-card deck, your chances of drawing one of them are actually 33%. And then when you have like half of your deck is like literally 20 cards in your deck are all 1-card combos that are at 3, like, you have a really high chance of drawing them. So even going first, it's not really that bad. And drawing the Impermanents or the Evenly is not that bad going first because every play I make is going to be solely contributed off of one monster. And when I go into my extra deck, it's still only going to be one monster the entire duration of the time. If it's a Black Rose, if it's a Carrion Quandax, if it's an actual Matrix, if I go into Samurai, Destroyer, whatever I want to go into, I'm literally going to have one monster. The Evenly is still going to have a high impact because if they hit my monsters float, so it's going to get destroyed. It's going to special something else, and then I can just Evenly after they're done trying to kill me, which they won't. And then once I've Evenly them, I'm probably going to start winning after that. And the same thing with the impermanence. Even when you're going first, you draw it, you can set it, and it could potentially negate 2 cards, which is really good. The final trap that I am main decking is actually 3 Crystron Impacts. Now, while I wanted to cut this card down to 2, I felt that it was way too powerful in the grind games. This is going to come up 3 times. It's going to come up 4 times. It's going to come up 5 times. You're going to wish that you had more than 3 of this card. It is insane. Like, one of the main reasons why you can even do the Trishula or the Carrion Quandax on your opponent's turn or some of the Black Rose shenanigans is because you can search this trap out and use it as an actual play extender, which is really good. It can revive your Rion, and Rion can recycle. So like it can potentially recycle your recyclers and just kind of keep your engine flowing without running low on resources, so that you don't burn out and lose to yourself, if that makes sense. Now the extra deck is missing a Trishula and a White Aura White Aura Well, I think it is. It's a level 8 synchro. He's a fish. Every time he dies, you just banish the water and special him. He's really good. Those are cards that I'm missing. I think everything else is kind of where I want it to be. I do play 1 Carrion Quandax. This guy comes up at least twice every time I'm playtesting with this deck. I think I'm going to bump this card up to 2. It's really, really powerful in any given matchup. Especially I think in the Sky Striker, because their monster count is so low, and being able to banish Rays and Shizukus and stuff like that, kind of just taking it out of the game really helps. Even in the Altergeist matchup, their monster count is very low. When you're able to kind of just like banish the monsters from their grave, like that helps out a lot, because now whenever they're ready to manifestation, they're going to have to do a little bit of extra work to even put the targets in there. And keep in mind, yeah, when you activate this effect, they can chain manifestation, but the monsters can be banished from the field or the graveyard, which is really cool. And something else that I want to point out about this card that I think would make it even more powerful. Like, it would have been a flaw, but they made it one of its benefits. If this card dies, it can special summon any monster from either player's banished zone. So in a way, it's like a Monster Reborn, but for the banished monsters. And when I mean either player's banished zone, I can special summon your banished monster to my side of the field. I can take that monster and use it for myself. And if you didn't notice, like what this guy does is when he summoned, he banishes monsters from the grave or the field. So hypothetically speaking, I can steal any monsters with this guy. I can just banish the monster, pop him with my own Crystron's effect, because remember they pop face-up cards, and just take the monster that I just banished from you. So that's one of the main reasons why this card comes up so much. And it is 3,000 either way. It's like one of the best cards. It's like a win condition. I like it a lot. I also do play 1 Phoenix. Phoenix is a lot more difficult to make than Carrion Quandax is. He requires 2 tuners and 1 non-tuner. Phoenix requires 1 tuner synchro monster plus 1 or more non-tuner synchro monsters. In fact, one of the easiest ways I used to make him back in the day was I would use Deep Sea Different Dimension Trench to kind of even the playing field on that aspect and help me to make this card more consistently. Now the way it works is you kind of have to overcommit to make this card, but it is worth the payout when you're able to resolve it. He's going to banish all spells and traps from your opponent's graveyard. I think it's field and graveyard. Yes, in fact it is. It banishes all spells and traps your opponent controls and in their graveyard. And if he is destroyed by battle or card effect, you target one other monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So he is arguably a lot weaker than Carrion Quandax, but think of it in the Altergeist matchup and the Sky Striker matchups. If you're able to resolve this card under no interruption or interference, if you're able to resolve it, you can probably take control of the game. So these are some of the more difficult cards to make. Well, not difficult, but more resource excessive cards to make, but they are totally worth it at the end. And then I do play 2 Matrix. A Matrix can make all monsters that are special summoned go to defense position, and then also if it is destroyed by any means, it special summons a Crystron monster from your graveyard. except the Synchro. So it's like a Monster Reborn for Crystron. It floats. And it's one of the reasons why I used to play 3, because this card's really powerful for the grind. I do play also 2 Quandax. Quandax is insane. It's how you go into your generic Synchros and pull off those kind of shenanigans. Your Cypher and Lord Omegas, your Trishulas, your Black Roses. You know, you can even do the combo with Quandax. It's just insane. This card deserves to be at 3, but there are a lot of space issues with this deck, and the extra deck is one of it. So this card is just insane. We do not have Needle Fiber, but when we get Needle Fiber, this deck is gonna have like an infinite amount of resources. It's gonna be insane what this deck can do with the 1-card combo. So that's it for your Crystron Synchros. Now for generic machine type Synchros, because it's more than likely what you're under the restriction of when you're going for your pushes. Because remember, we like to go second. So all the pushes that we make going second, if we don't evenly match our opponent and we're trying to push for damage, we are limiting ourselves to only machine type Synchros for the vast majority and for the most part. It depends how your hand shapes up, but naturally you always end up having to summon machines. So we play a lot of machine type Synchros. Vermilion Dragon Mech is one of them. One of the basically, you can say, I guess, interactions that this card has is that it can add your banished Ash Blossom. You know, when it's destroyed, it adds back a banished tuner. So if for whatever reason you have a banished Ash Blossom or Ghost Ogre or Effect Veiler, you could add it back potentially. Hypothetically speaking, I don't know if it's ever going to come up, but like what it does is you actually do banish a tuner from your hand, field, or grave, target a card on the field, and destroy it. For the most part, like if you really want to get your hand trap back, you can use this to banish one of your hand traps that you used previously. Because remember, this is the going second piloted strategy. So I could, like, for example, if I Ashed or Ogred or Veilered my opponent, I can make this card, hit them for some damage, and then main phase 2 use his effect, kill him, and add that hand trap that I just banished, target himself, pop him, add it to my hand. So that's one of the ways you can force it. But for the most part, I like to leave him on the field and kind of use him for that Scrapdragon effect to continue applying pressure. He's a really, really good card. He's strong, solid. And then I play Samurai Destroyer. This card is insane. Every Crystron player should be running him. He's generic, but he's a machine. I love his effect when he battles, and then if he dies, he revives any machine-type monster from my grave, which could be my machine, my Synchros, my Crystron Synchros, my Sulfaneer. Like, if you're in the grind game and your opponent's trying to ulti-K you, this deck, one of its floats that it can do is you go Destroyer into a Matrix into Sulfaneer, Sulfaneer into like one of your tuners, and then use the tuner and go into a Matrix again, and then a Matrix die, a Matrix float. You can survive up to 7 attacks. And if your opponent has extra linked you or whatever it is, if your opponent has the ability to attack you 7 times, you can cock like every one of those attacks and take no direct damage. So this deck, like I said, it can grind, it can float. It's a really, really solid deck. I just think the thing is people don't really take the time to figure out other archetypes or strategies or even look into them or build them because they're so enraptured and distracted by the meta. But that's something that I really love about rogue decks is that they don't get the recognition. So when you pilot strategies like these, you have the potential of not only catching people off guard, but for them to not be prepared for that strategy, for them to not have their side deck adequately built for strategies like this. I love Rogue. You guys know this. Rogue is like life for me. And I do play another Samurai. It's a Stealth Ninja. Stealth Ninja is really cool because you do play the Sekka's Light engine, which helps to kind of synergize with this card. I'll read you his effect. So he can attack while he's in defense. He has 28 defense. So you're going to summon him in defense. If you do, you apply his defense for damage calc. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can half this card's original defense. And if you do, this card can attack directly. So this card can attack for game. You play Sekka's Light, you draw 2, you banish Sekka's Light, and then you have no spell or traps in your grave. So that is one of the interactions that this card has with Sekka's Light. It can attack directly for game potentially. 1400 direct is not that much, but it depends. Every increment counts, and especially in time, this card can be your win condition. And also, once per turn, if this card is destroyed by card effect and sent to your graveyard, during your next standby, you just special summon it. So if they kill it by any means that's not battle, it's going to come back every single time. It's really, really cool. So the Samurais. I also play a Powder Zektron. This deck can be, like I said, it's very, very grindy. Sometimes it can be very annoying for the person playing against the deck because there's so many ways that this deck can make sure that it never dies. Powder Zektron is another way. You summon him, you're taking no damage that turn. Battle or effect damage, and he cannot be destroyed by card effects, and I think it's by battle either. Yeah, so the turn this card Synchro Summon, it cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects, and then you take no damage at all. And he's a machine, so he kind of synergizes with the archetype. Then we play Catastor. He's a machine that we can go into that actually can pose a threat and kind of help us to get the job done in dealing with some of the monsters that might be a little bit too much for the deck. And, like, you know, it could be something like, dang, I don't have an Impermanence or a Veiler or an Ogre for this card. I really need to get rid of it. I'm just going to go ahead and Catastor it. If you're not able to make Carry On Quandax, or if it's a duel where you already resolved him, you're going to have to make a card like this to kind of deal with some of the problems. And then, of course, we do have Black Rose Dragon. It's very easy to make in this deck. In fact, it's one of my main go-tos. Even though I am going second and I'm pretty much making boards irrelevant, I still love to just kind of cripple and deplenish my opponent's morale. You can say morale, or even their, I guess you can say their sheer will to continue in playing the game. It kind of just, it really does make people want to give up when you've already drained so much of their resources. You've hand-trapped them, and then you hit them with a one-card combo and Black Rose their entire field in the middle of their combo and kind of just be like, are you done yet? I have a Veiler in hand. So I play double Black Rose because it comes up a lot. And I do play one Mistar Boy. Mistar Boy is kind of like the only link that really comes up. While this deck can link summon pretty consistently, I chose to play more Synchros because every different Synchro comes up a lot. And then I also still have Synchros that I need to play, like White Aura Well. This is White Aura Well until I get it. And then Trishula's a card I took into consideration. Borreload and all other good links I've considered, even Nightmares. But this deck, it does its job well with just Synchro Summoning. And that concludes my Crystron profile. I'm actually going to take this deck to the next Regionals level event or even YCS, just because I really want to see how good it is. I want to test my theory, because right now this is a theory because I have not played this deck against like Gokis or Spirals or, you know, Nightmare anything, or, you know, Sky Striker anything. So I don't really know how good it's actually going to do until I test it against really good players. And that's what I'm going to do. Once I pick up the rest of my cards, I'm going to take this to, you know, a regional level event or YCS. And you guys are obviously going to see how I do because I'm going to profile it. But yeah, that pretty much concludes it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. This is definitely for my Crystron fans who feel like this deck needs to get more love. I'm showing love to it today. And I am going to be piloting this for, you know, a little bit just to kind of enjoy myself. I like to play to have fun. I don't really play to win. And that's really how you start winning, when you kind of just get out of that mindset of I'm going to play meta, I'm playing to win, and kind of just play with passion, play to have fun, enjoy the game, do what Yu-Gi-Oh! Was intended for, which is for you to enjoy yourself, relax, you know, take your mind off of the stress of life and stop stressing about winning. You know, it's going to happen. You're going to get there. But yeah, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Y'all have a beautiful day. Peace.